Hey, this is the antisocial socialite back at it again. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you are new to the channel, you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for, darling? Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, so when I get to running this mouth, baby, you are in the loop. You see the title, you know what time it is. Ladies, are you trying to attract a woman or a man? Okay, I don't know. I've got to take a deep breath and some alcohol, because this is just getting ridiculous. In fact, it's not getting ridiculous, it's already been ridiculous for a while. You know, I'm just perusing YouTube streets, you know how I do already. And it's just like everywhere I turn, you've got these women and they're always talking about men, and they're telling other women what these women should be doing to get men to do this, to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, are these women trying to attract another woman, or are they heterosexual women trying to get with a dude? Because I just don't understand why women run to other women for advice about how to attract a man and what a man likes, when you should just be asking men, namely your father, because your father's supposed to be the one out here who doesn't have any vested interest other than to see his little girl doing well. He's going to tell you the truth from a protective standpoint because, number one, he's been a boy, he's been a young man, and he knows what it's like to go through the phases of being attracted to females and wanting to date, and you know how he played girls or how he slept around or whatever it did, the games that men play. He's gonna game his daughter up so that no boy can take advantage. I mean, I know it's a double standard because maybe when he was young he was taking advantage of other people's daughter, but that's how, just like we talk about herd immunity, we can have herd common sense. Okay, so when you have a situation where you have a multitude of women who are, you know, growing up without fathers in the home, they turn to these masculine women who have opinions on everything but knowledge on nothing to tell them, to guide them, and in the end they end up just being as single and as lost as a lot of the women out here who they're taking the advice from. I mean, if you look at the women who you're taking advice from and they don't have a picture perfect life and they're really happy, why on earth would you take advice from them? Why would you take romantic advice from somebody who's romantically unsuccessful and extremely unhappy? It just doesn't make any sense, because at the end of the day, if those women had the formula for what was right, they would do it themselves. There's only 3 instances where I can really think of where I would say, if this person does not have the life that you want, but they're giving you advice and you should take it, it would be, I know what I have to do, but I'm not doing it. And then the issue is not them, it's not the men, it's me. If they're telling you something that they learned, like, I was in this relationship, I went in this situation, and I made a mistake, and they're able to recognize where they made the mistake, and they kind of own it, and they're like, if I could go back and do it all again, this is what I would do differently so that you don't end up like me. Or if the person is like, this is what my father told me, this is what my male friends and my exes told me, you know, I have male colleagues or people that mentor me and they're masculine men, and this is what they have told me, so the information I'm giving you is not from a female perspective, it's actually from a man's perspective. Those are like the 3 instances where if the woman doesn't have the kind of life you would want, I would still say give her a chance with what she's saying. But you have a lot of these women out here, they're highly opinionated, they have a comment to make on everything, they have a criticism for everybody, but yet when you look at their life and you look at their happiness status, they're just unfulfilled. You've got this issue with things like women shaming other women for being pick-me's. And I understand, like back in the day, the concept was a woman who allowed herself to be a doormat in order to just say she had a man. But there's women in the West today, especially black women, they're a wash, man. They're a waste of time, a lot of them. Especially the ones who are vocal on social media. Because The same men that these women complain about are the same men they're sexually attracted to and they're willingly giving it up for. Okay, can we all just keep it real? B. Simone was like, I don't want a 9-to-5 dude, but I want a guy who's a thug and a drug dealer. So you want a man who does illegal activity, could cause you, your kids, or himself to be shot. He's likely to not be able to get a 9-to-5 job because he's got a criminal record. Maybe he will spend a lot of time away from you because he's in and out of prison. And you think because he's not, clocking in to an employer, instead he's standing on the street corner, that's better than a man who does an honest job and has something to offer to you and your kids. That's why I tell you, a lot of the celebrities, whether they're male or female, from they're elevated in the public eye, they're elevated to destroy black people. Because how can you have a young girl who's looked up to by probably millions now talking about, I'd like a drug dealer? Like, any woman who says something like that should immediately just be banished to the wall, man, just sent to the abyss. Because that's, sorry to say, but that's a loser. She is a loser. Just like, what's his face? The one that I can't stand. The one with all the children everywhere. I don't know why I think his name begins with an S. An F. Oh, Future. Go on, brain. Future has no future. He's a lame. He's a person who sells himself under false advertising, because when you get with him you have no future. There is no future apart from child support courts and DNA testing. Okay, that's your future with Future. So when these chicks are roaming around here talking about this is the kind of men we want, I'm really sorry. If she opens her mouth and says certain things, man, as a brother who values himself, just send her to the wall. Just rename her Oscar and put her in the trash. Because she's not saying anything that is gonna, this is the person who's gonna be the mother of your kids, man. It's not just what she feeds them in the mouth, it's what she feeds them with the eyes and the ears. What is she gonna be putting in their eyes and ears? So you have women like B. Simone saying she don't want a 9-to-5 man, and she don't even know what she's talking about or where she's coming from. She came from a humble beginning. And you can see how it turns out when a lot of these people get with a lot of these guys from the industry. But she's still like the female Pied Piper leading other young women down the wrong path. So when you're out here and you're dressed a certain way and you have hair, I talked about this in one of the other videos, that you have women out here who they don't take care of their physical health, but they take care of their weave. They've got on nails, they've got 5 kilos of makeup and everything, and they've got purses, and it's like, you're really trying to date other women. You're really trying to get validation and approval from other women, because they're the ones who are giving you the attention. And then you're trying to say, well, it's not this, it's not that, it's not my attitude, it's not this, it's not that, it's not these kids, It's not the fact that I'm 150 pounds overweight. No, it's just them, it's just the men. They can't handle a strong woman. How do you know? Well, my girlfriends told me. So you have a lot of women out here talking about divesting. And listen, I'm not somebody who's like, you gotta always go black. As I've said in other videos, some people are just culturally different. They do not necessarily get on with what is the culturally normal, typical black experience. So if you feel like you're gonna find happiness dating out, I'm like, more power to you. I have no problem with that. I couldn't stop you even if I wanted to, because that's, at the end of the day, your prerogative. You have the right to your preference and to be happy. But this idea of black women throwing the white man in the black man's face is so not going to help them in any way, okay? Shaming black men and trying to lord white men over them is not going to attract the kind of men that you want. And at the end of the day, what's ultimately going to happen is you're going to resent the men that you attract because they're weak, they're easily emotionally manipulated, and so you're going to despise them, you're going to have contempt for them because they worship you and they're easy to be moved. But on top of that, you're not really going to this idea that there's a whole multitude of non-black men lining up to date black women, this also is an erroneous thought, okay? I'm not saying that no non-black men want black women, that's not what I'm saying, but what black women forget all the time is the same white man that you are running to is the same white man who has your image in the trash. And as I've said before, stereotypes are always rooted in a little bit of truth. You never hear about certain ethnic groups of men with, you know, humongous reproductive organs, or swag, or, I don't know, driving certain vehicles, or operating or dressing a certain type of way. If you saw it, you would say that person is acting like this or like that, because that's not the cultural norm. That's not the image that you associate with those ethnic groups of men or women or whatever. So when you see a stereotype, you recognize it because you know to an extent there's a degree of truth in there, and the reputation of the black woman has gone before her. As a result of the things that have gone out in the media, as a result of the way we act on a day-to-day basis, even the things that we do on social media, okay? It has exposed exactly who we are as a group of people and what we're about. And that's why, although you have non-black men who they don't mind to fetishize black women, they don't mind to spend a little change on them to have some fun, when it comes to signing up to a long-term partner, they are not buying what a lot of black women are selling. And I look at black women who try to threaten divesting as, you know, a chess piece on a board that has one square against no opponent. You are literally out there on your own. Not because you're just the most hideous creature on the planet, but because, you know, you're trying to move somewhere where there's not necessarily a space for you, and there's no move you can really make. And you see, all right, women of all colors, hair textures, features, whatever, they're all getting picked, okay? So there's somebody out there for everybody. But let's just take the general beauty standard. When you go to parts of Southeast Asia, they're like plastic, you know, surgery central. You can't be a certain weight, you have to be a certain height. There are lots of places where you have to have a certain demeanor. And those men who have standards and know what they want, they're not taking on black women like that. Most black men want to be with a black woman. And the next thing we need to ask ourselves is, why is there such a dearth of quality black men then? Why is it all the good looking ones have multitudes of children, you know, and can play the field? It's because women are not raising these men to be real men. They're not raising them to be educated, they're not raising them to be successful. You know, they're not investing in their sons to make sure that their sons are as educated as their daughters. You know, I mean, the biggest thing that you can do, the first thing you do as a good mother, is pick a good father for your kids. Okay? And if you're out here like B. Simone saying you want thugs and drug dealers, then you're not the kind of person that should be having children, because you haven't got the right mind frame when it comes to the best interest of your kids. And as I said in another video, this is not generational curses, this is just generational carelessness. A multitude of women having babies with no good bummy men who have nothing to teach their children. You know, they don't know how to teach their children to fix a car, they don't know how to teach their children to just be productive men. doing masculine, normal, everyday things. A lot of these women are so superficially driven, they're always chasing excitement, that they don't pick men that in the long term are going to make decent husbands. That's why so many of the men are going abroad. It's not because, because think about it. You see, on the one hand, you can say, well, the statistics don't look good about how many of us are married because we outnumber men so many to 1. But if every man has a pick of 5 to 10 women, if you're saying that for every one man there's maybe 5 to 10 women and they still date out, that tells you that the problem is not a shortage of women, it's a shortage of quality. Because if that man has so many women to choose from, how come he still cannot find one who's decent? And you can switch it and cut it and slice it any which way you want. That is the real question that needs to be asked. If every man has options of at least, let's just call it an average of 7 women, why can he still not find a woman to settle down with and make him happy? It's because there's a shortage in quality females out here. And when they're saying things like, focus on your money and get your business, and you're out here worrying about your weave, and you're talking about, don't be a pick-me, colorism, featureism, texturism, and all these other arguments, they are pick-me arguments. You are out here crying every day on the internet that you are not the one being picked. So why are you telling women who actually could get a quality man, don't be a pick-me? It's because these women who don't have what it takes to submit, they don't have what it takes to build, they don't have what it takes to be a helpmeet, they don't want to see another woman succeeding where they failed. And then they use the native language of the black person, which is the shaming tactic. There's French, there's German, there's Italian, there's patois, there's you name it, and then there's shame. However many languages there are on the planet, that's the other one, and that's exclusive for black people. Black people shame each other, and this is the thing that's so weird about a lot of the women online who criticize and label women as pick-me's. They say they want to be married, but they're not willing to do what it takes to make a man happy. So how can you have what you want if you're not willing to do what you need to do to get it? And if you really sit down and think about what you're being told as a female by these loser females, you would understand it doesn't make any sense to listen to them when they are not able to attain what they claim they want. Their attitude is like they want to have their cake and eat it, that in the end they end up with nothing. Or what they end up with is what they didn't want. And if they do manage to settle down, they realize they could have had that 10, 20, 30 years ago had they just humbled themselves and got their mind right. It's only when they hit the wall and been through the mud and the rain and the floods that they came out on the other side and had an epiphany. Oh yeah, I could have had this a long time ago. I should have settled down with so-and-so, but I was thinking there was a better option out there, and now I've just wasted all these years being unhappy and going through the dating market when I could have just settled down years ago. So for young women, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be that woman that at 30, 40, 50 is still talking about dating and whether internet dating is better for me, or whether going to this bar or this singles meeting or whatever? Do you want to be that chick? Or do you just want to find a decent man, settle down, have your kids, and by the time they're grown, you're still young enough to go and have an enjoyable rest of your life with your partner, and you travel the world, and every 6 months you're in a different country and you've got your career and you're living big life? You need to seriously sit down and think about what you want out of life. And if the women who are giving you advice, they've got a few purses and some Brazilian, but they still really don't have anything romantically to show for themselves, you need to ask yourself, do I want to be this woman in 10, 20 years time? Because you see, everybody's doing well when they're young. Everything is all good when you're in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s, and you have strength and the society is working, you know, properly. But once, you know, the crap hits the fan, like we saw with this pandemic business, people really had to start examining themselves to see what they had. Some people realized, you know what, those things we were fussing over, now we allegedly staring death in the face. We really don't need to be worrying about those things. And some people just realized that we've made a mistake. Here in the UK, they said, I can't remember what percentage it was quite high. It was more than 50% of people grew closer during the coronavirus crisis, and about 17% of people, which is still quite a lot, it's nearly 1 in 5 people, realized they were with the wrong partner. So which kind of female do you want to be? Do you want to be a chick that's riding the carousel for years to come until, you know, you're pushed off it, as some would say, kicking and screaming? Or do you want to settle down with a decent man and build a good life and just go and enjoy your life? You see, the issue here always comes back down to the institutional disrespect and the contempt that the black woman has for the black man. If she doesn't deem him worthy in order to be submissive, be cooperative, be a helpmate, she will not be able to attract a high value man. Okay, that's why I said in one of my videos, you know, I think it was that women need to stop saying that they're happy being single. You know, women are shamed by other women into feeling bad about wanting to be a cooperative helpmate. Oh girl, he's controlling you. You know, you gotta have your own things, you gotta have your own mind, you gotta have your own money, you know. And basically what they're telling you is you should be the boss of him and he should just be the wallet and, you know, the penis on command kind of thing. And then you pull the strings, you lead the relationship. But then when you get a guy who you actually can manipulate and control like that, you have contempt for him because everything is always landing in your lap. You know, when you've got a guy who is always dependent upon you to lead him in every situation, it becomes exhausting. It is exhausting being with a beta who's always looking for you to lead them, because that's not a partner, that's a child. Okay, so these women who are in their masculine energy, they're always attracting these weak men. They breed them and they procreate with them and they date them. And they're telling you, go and be masculine, go and be the leader in the relationship. And you think that you're going to still attract, I mean, even if you did come into contact with an alpha male, a man who knows what he wants and is not going to, you know, settle for less, the two of you would just be clashing because you're fighting for that top position. And no, submission is not servitude. Submission is not slavery. Servitude is, you know, you walk 5 paces behind and you don't speak unless you're spoken to, and you walk with your face to the ground because the master is, you know. I mean, women always try to be seriously hyperbolic about the idea of submission because they don't want to be the secondary position in the relationship, and they don't want to, you know, admit that they don't know everything and that sometimes the guy is just smarter and you just need to follow his lead. That's what that argument really is all about. Again, the contempt for the man, the fact that you have this institutional disrespect. It's like there's a real cognitive dissonance that's occurred when it's like that occurs at the thought of the man being competent and able to lead and better at the job. And so you have these women out here who are talking about how to be feminine to attract a non-black man, how to lose weight to attract a non-black man, how to do this, how to do that, how to attract them, how to keep them. And it's like, well, men across the board are the same, so why couldn't you do that to get a high value black man? Well, there's no such thing as a good black man anyway. So The fact that women are not investing in their sons, they're not making sure that these boys don't end up in the streets, the fact that they're not making sure that they have strong fathers, they're making sure that they remain in poverty by getting with dusties, and then they spend all day bashing and dragging the rest of the black men through the mud. You know, when other races of men see that, they're not trying to sign up to a black woman. They're like, if that's what you do to your own men, what would you do to us? In fact, there's no respect across the board, because black people are not respected, because black people are always looking for a handout. They're always looking for somebody to come and rescue them. Okay? So, I wouldn't even say to a brother who wants to date out, oh, you're a sellout, because a lot of black men would prefer to be with a black woman. That's why the scripture says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. But a lot of women, they're not wife material. So how can a man find a wife amongst a group of women? Again, if you're saying that men are outnumbered by women 6, 7, 10 to 1, you mean to tell me there's none of them that's good? They have the pick, but they still have to date out. There's problems on both sides, but definitely the way these women are being raised, the way these girls are being, you know, taught to by even their own mothers to get men. I mean, how come there are so many black women complaining about men? And how come there's so many few black women talking about how these boys come to be in the way that they are? This is the intellectual dishonesty that a lot of black women just never seem to want to address. They fail their sons, then they complain that there's no real men out here. And we know that it's not because girls are born disproportionately more than boys, because actually slightly more boys are born. It's like 50 point something, 49 point something male to female ratio at birth. But we know because men die sooner, and when we talk about the black community, you've got things like incarceration. There's an issue there. You don't have enough black women talking about this aspect of the situation, that how come there are more boys being born, but there aren't as many black men able to find quality black women. Your girlfriends hate you, and your girlfriends are probably single, they're jaded, they're probably bitter, they probably haven't had a decent relationship in years, and it's because at the end of the day they don't have what it takes, and they don't even recognize their own failure in order to tell you don't be like me, because for them to say don't be like me, they would have to acknowledge that they haven't done a good job in the dating world. So when you're out here saying, well, my girlfriends like my hair, my friends think my makeup is fierce, and you know, I got my nails done dead and all this nonsense, like, these things add absolutely no value to the life of a man. That's not what he's looking for. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to go out looking like you were dragged through bushes, but at the same time, you have to understand that a man who's looking for a wife, he has higher expectations and requirements than just Brazilian and acrylic nails. And it's really sad that a lot of women, they're wasting their most fertile years and the years where they're looking the best and they have the highest number of options on guys who are just there to play with them and use them for sex and then just bounce. And it's like, as much as you want to say, well, you know, the problem is the men, the problem is often the women that other women listen to, because they behave as though they're trying to date women, and that it's the opinion and the validation of women that really counts. Men and women are different, we're opposite. There's things that men think and value that women do not. So if you're trying to date a man, you're supposed to be taking advice from women who have success with men and men themselves. If you're a woman out here trying to date men, please stop taking advice from unsuccessful women. That's all I got for this one. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.